Okay, well, we're so glad that you're here today for our 2026 Bioeconomy Workshop for Teachers. And we're excited to share these diverse student voices that have already experienced a lot of different things. And hopefully we'll give you some ideas to share with your students. So first of all, I'm Misty Wheeling, and along with Tracy, I'm a co-chair of our biotechnology program here at SCC. And to start with, we're going to go down the line, and you guys can introduce yourself. And as you tell us your name, please also talk about just a little bit about your educational background, what you're doing currently, your major, if you're still in school, or what you did when you were in school, or at least what you're interested in currently, if that doesn't align with anything yet.
Hello, everybody. My name's Hunter Novacek. When I graduated high school, I started at Southeast. I was a health student transfer, and then I found out about the biotech program, so then I enrolled in the biotech program, graduated from the biotech program in 2024, and then I transferred to UNL biochemistry down the cellular pathway, and then I graduated from UNL this last May, and currently I'm working 2 part-time jobs, one in a research lab on East Campus, and then in the afternoons I work at a local biotech company that has to do with cattle and livestock genetic testing for farmers. Oh yeah, and I help out on the weekends with the Food ID grant that is done here at Southeast and between UNL.
My name is Lincoln Graham. I have my bachelor's in fine arts from UNL. I focused in emerging media arts, so think about like interactive media, a lot of video games, a lot of like 3D printing. I'm really focused on like event planning and trying to host interactive events that are a bit more impactful than just your traditional community outreach. And I'm currently running the Biodesign Club over at Northeast High School, and I'm on Food ID.
My name is Jonah Morgan. I followed much the same path as Hunter, where I graduated from high school and came here to SCC to do an associate's in biotech. And then I moved over to UNL, where I'm currently also pursuing a bachelor's in biochemistry in the cellular pathway. And I work at Solarion as an analyst.
Hello, my name is Thomas Hemphill, and much like these two guys, I graduated high school, went to SCC for academic transfer, and then I learned about the biotechnology program. I graduated in December of 25, and now I also work at Solarion, but I'm an analyst in the molecular cellular biology department.
Hello, my name is Zoe Durand. I didn't go to SCC at all. I went to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I majored in anthropology with an emphasis in forensic anthropology and minors in archaeology, biology, and Russian. I'm going to be starting grad school at Chico State in California for a master's in anthropology, focusing on forensic anthropology. Currently, I work here at SCC. I am an adjunct for the science department. I teach Gen Bio Lab, Bio 1 Lab, Anatomy Lab, and Physiology Lab, and I co-coordinate the Bio 1 and the Gen Bio Labs. And then I also work here on the Food ID grant for the biotech department, along with Tracy and Misty and Hunter.
Great. So Zoe, we're going to start on your end and work our way back. So what first sparked your interest in science and biotechnology in this realm? What first sparked your interest?
I think I've always been kind of interested in science. I kind of knew even when I was a kid that I was going to go into science. I just didn't know which field of science. When I was in 8th grade, I decided to go into forensic anthropology, and so that's kind of been where my focus has been. It wasn't until I graduated from UNL and decided to take a gap year that I started working for the biotech department. I worked for the bio department at UNL while I was a student there, but I didn't really realize at the time that those skills could transfer into the biotech department. And then I was very grateful to get this position and be able to work here, and I love the work I do here.
What got me into science? Man. I guess it was just, I've always been a science nerd. I love how things work. I love animals. I had a bunch of different like pathways that I wanted to do. I wanted to do veterinary science for a long time, and then I realized that that's a lot of school, and that's a lot of money, and I'm like, maybe we just do just other science. But I guess what really got me into it was high school. I had a lot of good science teachers growing up, and then I did my first gel electrophoresis when I was in high school, part of my AP Bio class, and that was like, ooh, this is fun. I like that. I like a micropipette. It's really fun to do. And then when I found out about the biotechnology program, I was like, what is that? Is technology? I don't know computers. But then I actually learned about what it was, and I'm like, that's exactly what I want to do. So that's pretty much what got me into it, yeah.
Well, I'm sure that it is music to these guys' ears, the work that they do makes an impact.
For me, it was a similar case. I wanted to be a doctor when I was growing up, but I also learned that's a lot of work and money. So there was a program in high school you can do called the Career Academy, which is part of SCC tied to that, and they have a biotech class in that. And then I learned about genetically modified foods like golden rice or like things like that that can be used to help people in poorer countries to get the vitamins and nutrients they need. And I thought that was really interesting to see how science could be applied like that to help a lot of people. And that's what really made me fall in love with biotechnology.
All right. Hello?
Hi. Put the switch up.
Yeah, no, it's just, hello? Hello? Hello?
Test.
While he's working on that, it's so funny hearing you guys talk about all your science background with me with my art background. I guess in high school, I always knew I wanted to do something creative. I always wanted to. Yeah. Okay. I always knew I wanted to do something creative. I always knew I wanted to be busy, work with my hands if I could. I was originally interested in like video editing. I was interested in like special effects. I was interested in 3D modeling, but eventually I really landed on sustainability as like my real big like calling and like real big passion. It was with taking this class by Andrew Hanna, who's friends with Mike Smith at the Bay, where he basically like tasked us with helping people. And I don't know, that just had a really big impact on me, and I didn't necessarily realize that I could help people using my art. So I really fell in love with like, breaking stuff down, explaining stuff to people, teaching, just like all of it, just really getting the word out. I love to spread awareness. I love to bring people together. And that's kind of why, I guess currently I host a food fight night, or a food fight, where it's completely zero waste. We use like food scraps that were gonna be thrown away, and then we compost them at the end of the night. And I did that to really shout out and to really draw attention to a lot of these projects that like we're kind of talking about here, where most people like have no idea, and then if they do have an idea, they're like, oh, that's way too complicated, or oh, that's way too, I could never understand that, or oh, that could never be me. So I really like to, I don't know, shout you guys out, really like, bring some attention, really show off all the cool stuff that you're working on.
So similar to a lot of what we've heard, in high school, I never heard about biotechnology. I didn't know, I always thought science was going into the medical field, so that I was always interested in science, so I thought I would end up somewhere in the medical field. So when I came to Southeast, I was in the health science field, and it didn't really feel like the right fit for me. I mean, I was enjoying the classes, it's just, I didn't have a definite plan in my head on what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. So I just started having a conversation with some of the science faculty here at SCC, learned about the biotech program, and I got into the biotech program, and I felt right at home doing a lot of those different techniques, introductory, getting to learn how to do biotech and using these different techniques that they're teaching here to the high school teachers. And then I was lucky enough to apply and get accepted into a research experience for undergrad program at James Madison University. So the NSF paid for me to go and work in a research lab full time for a summer in Virginia, and that's where I really knew I was in the right place. I really enjoyed my time working in the research lab, and I was like, whatever it takes, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life, working in a research field, working in the lab. So when I got back to Southeast, I remember going up to Tracy and say, hey, you know, what kind of different opportunities do you have? And from there, it's just been, everything has fallen right in the path for me, working in the lab, getting more experience working on different techniques. So that's what really sparked, you know, my interest was at REU, getting my start in the biotech program, learning about what biotech is and all the different techniques. That's my joy.
So Hunter, you were just describing this research experience. Has there been any other projects that have been really meaningful to you? And we'll go down the line. Any projects or research experiences that have been really helpful to you?
So yeah, starting off, that REU program was definitely kind of what kick-started it. And then when I got back to going to school here at Southeast, there was a different project that Tracy and Misty were working on, the Dog ID, or the Dog Project, as maybe some of you in this room have gone to that workshop. So I helped along with that, and I was lucky enough to get to come to the classroom and help with the classroom, and that was really fulfilling for me, getting to talk to the next generation of students and getting to share my love for science with other people and watch the spark in their eyes light up when they see that DNA gel and they see that DNA band on the gel. And then I also had an opportunity to work in a research lab on East Campus. We work on viruses, so I got to do that for a summer, and that was really great for me. And that's currently where I'm working in the same lab now this summer. So those experiences have definitely been some of my tip top.
For me, like, it really all started with like UCare, which I forget what it stands for, but basically you can do a project or propose your own project with a professor, and then you get to work underneath them, and you're paid either hourly. Well, yeah, you're always paid hourly, but it's like contract work. Anyways, my first UCare project was with Ash Smith, who is a former professor here at UNL, and it was about Hercules and his like 12 trials. Because basically to gain, oh my gosh, I'm so bad with Greek history. To like gain his godhood or something, he had to basically do these 12 trials, and it's been a while. To do these 12 trials, and basically this interactive theater piece where we put on these headphones, and then you were directed and you had to act out all this stuff to basically symbolize the different parts of it. It was just so fun and so interesting, and it did such a good job of kind of explaining that story and really getting people interested and thinking and talking, and just seeing that seeing something so small, so goofy, so, you know, like it could be like so thought-provoking too at the same time. So that was something I really fell in love with, and that I wanted to bring to particularly sustainability and other aspects. I started working on, it's not the Food ID grant. Or I was working on a previous grant that was also related to food. That was also very beneficial, where we prioritize just basically just talking, just learning about like the food systems like that go on here. Like I've interviewed people at Vertical Farms. I'm talking pretty long here. But yeah, I would definitely say just like doing those little projects here and there, but for a good cause. That was really what inspired me and got me really interested.
For me, there was a scholarship program through the Career Academy with Solarion where they would pay for an associate's in biotechnology. And then eventually I would go work there as an intern after I get that degree. And for me, that was super influential because I got to see a more industry-sided perspective of biotechnology, drug development, and like just working in a lab more. And that was super influential for me because that really like hammered down like, this is what I want to do. I want to work in a lab, and I want to work in biotechnology.
My first one was with Tracy, actually. I was doing biotechnology, I think it was my first semester, and she asked the class, hey, is there anybody that would like to do a work study for like a lab tech or something like that? And I was like, yes, I do. I like the lab, and it seems very fun to do. So I got this whole new building to work with. I helped set up the lab space, and it was really fun. It was a good experience to see how a lab is set up, especially because we have to set it up for when like industry comes, or like to teach the students about how an industry lab is set up. So that was my first one. I did that for a good couple of semesters with Tracy. It was very good. And then a part of the practicum that you have to do for the biotechnology degree is you can either like go do research at like a university, or go to like an industry and work there. I did my summer practicum at UNL. I did it with Nicole Buon in the biochemistry department. We were doing stuff with like biofuel and stuff like that. Can't say much of it, it's all confidential. But it was a very good experience to see like working with genetics and working with these cool archaea that I've never heard of. And it was all a very good experience to see. And really hard to pronounce. Oh, I can't even, Methanosarcina acetovorans, I believe is what it is. I can't really remember. But then that was a good experience for me. And then I also did the Solarion Biotechnology Scholarship / internship with them my last semester. And then I got a job working there as soon as I graduated. So I worked as a PSA while going to school. They're really good with working with your college schedule. I did a bunch of like glassware washing, he knows, a batch disposal, all that stuff that you don't really want to do, but you're getting paid for it, so there's that. And then it transitioned to a full-time job, which have been really nice, because sometimes, especially now these days, it's really hard to get a job with the degree that you do have. So those are some of my experiences, and it's really set me up for what I want to do.
I think my first experience working in a lab was when I was at UNL. I was a TA for 2 labs at UNL, the Life 120 lab and Life 121 lab. That's the equivalent to the Bio 1 and Bio 2 lab here. I was a teaching TA for the Bio 1 lab, but I was a prep TA for the Bio 2 lab, and I really enjoyed doing that like behind the scenes work. I mean, I enjoyed teaching as well, but it was fun to do the behind the scenes work, just preparing things, aliquoting things, making sure that everything was ready to go and that every possible scenario was accounted for, so that if anything went wrong in the like lab spaces, the TAs had it covered. And I just really liked some of that work. My next experience was I got to be an intern for the Department of Defense. I worked for the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency as a forensic anthropology intern. Their mission is to find service members who went missing in past conflicts, mostly Vietnam and World War II, and identify their remains and send them home. And that's more in line with what my like long-term goals are. But while I was there, I got to work in various different aspects of the lab, not only as like in the forensic anthropology portions, but I spent a lot of time working with the DNA analysts, and I really enjoyed that part of it as well. But I think what I was starting to learn at that point was that I just like being in a lab. Like that's just my preferred working environment is a lab space. And then I was really fortunate to, when that internship wrapped up, I got the job here at SCC, initially on the same dog grant that Hunter was talking about, the BioCare grant. And so I got to do a lot of behind the scenes work, making sure that our kits were all set up and ready to go for all of the high school teachers. I got to go to high school teachers. I've been to some of your classrooms and got to help run our like DNA extraction lab. And again, I really enjoyed being in the classroom, but I also just really enjoyed the parts where we were behind the scenes. Hunter and I ran a bunch of experiments trying to optimize our protocols, making sure everything went well. And that grant just wrapped up, or is just wrapping up this month. And as that grant was starting to wrap up, I got to start helping out with the Food ID grant here And even if it was a little bit unofficial at first, I was just kind of helping out here and there in my spare time. It was just, I just really enjoyed the experience of working in a lab. I think like working in a lab could just be my hobby, and I would be happy with that. But I enjoyed the experience of like running experiments, coming up with what's the next step. How can I optimize this protocol more and more and just make this all more efficient so that we have a better output? And yeah, just all the like monotonous stuff of like behind the scenes, like preparing everything is just kind of like a nice little happy place for me. I enjoy it.
And I think all of us would love to have a Zoe, right? I know we have certainly appreciated all that she is, all the skills that she's brought to help us out. Let's see. What opportunities in Nebraska have you discovered that you did not know existed when you were in middle school or high school?
I'd say the biggest opportunity that I didn't know existed when I was in high school was probably this job at SCC. I didn't know that at a community college that you could do research. I didn't really even know that at a college you could do research with just a bachelor's degree. Like I thought you needed to be like a master's student or like a PhD student or like a postdoc to be able to get to help with research projects and to get to help with, I guess, any NSF grant. And so I kind of, like, I knew about those internship opportunities and the TA opportunities when I was in high school. That's part of why I chose to come to Nebraska. But having the opportunity to work here at SCC was something I didn't really know was an opportunity until I saw the job listing and immediately applied.
I grew up in Seward, Nebraska, pretty small town. I knew nothing about anything related to science, except for the fact that I wanted to do it. I didn't really know what was going on after I graduated high school, and community college was the cheapest option for me because I didn't grow up with much. But then I started going to all these science classes, and then I met Tracy, and then I met these two beautiful people, and had a lot of fun just being around people that have the same like goals and like interests and stuff like that. I never knew that like any of this would happen. I didn't even know like what a lab job was. I just know doctors wear white coats, and that's pretty much it. I didn't know anything about like using bacteria to do things. I'm like, bacteria are gross little guys that make me not feel good. So like, what do you mean they can be good sometimes? But yeah, I had never thought that I would be where I am right now, especially with just a couple of associate's degrees. That's probably one of the biggest thing I advocate for is community colleges. I like universities as much as the next person, but definitely you can get a lot more hands-on experience from a smaller school with great instructors like Tracy and Misty. But yeah, they've taught me a lot more than I probably would have learned, honestly, at a four-year university. So those are definitely a couple of opportunities, I would say.
For me, it was very similar to Zoe, learning about what kind of like undergraduate research opportunities there are. Like even at UNL, there's a lot of labs that are willing to take you in even as an undergraduate, just to help out with things like grunt work, like washing stuff or prepping things that does that. But it's just an opportunity to once again see how a lab works normally in academia. But as part of the Career Academy, you can also do tours as well for a lot of industry places like Solarion and Neogen. And that was really interesting because a lot of those companies are very willing to have you shadow or just like go spend a day hovering around somebody. They're very willing to work that out. And I think that's a really cool opportunity that a lot of people can capitalize on.
Hello? All right, there we go. For me, it would definitely have to be just like UCare, as well as a class, as well as just a few random classes at UNL that were very experiential in nature that I never really anticipated that. I guess I never thought that that was how you could teach a class. The biggest example that I can think of would have to be Strive to Thrive, which you may or may not be familiar with. Basically, at UNL, it's kind of like a mock grant team, essentially, where basically Rhonda Seacrest, a private investor, gives the course $10,000, and then you, as a class, allocate that $10,000 into two $5,000 grants for like a nonprofit of your choice. So one big, one large, or one big, one small. The semester that I was there, I believe Matt Talbot didn't win. Like the soup kitchen in town. I forget who won, but basically just being able to go out and learn and debate and organize, because we basically just planned out like the whole grant process. Like we had to evaluate, we had to really ask hard questions and really find out like, okay, are you not necessarily worthy for this, but like how can I like sell you to my other classmates? That was something that was huge for me, was basically seeing and experiencing kind of this business and really like this really business oriented part of nonprofits, which I never really knew about until I actually took that course. And then kind of a similar thing with my UCare, where I had no idea how artists like work together. Like, sure, I was put on group projects, you know what I mean? But I'd never worked with somebody who had hosted like a proper fashion show before, or had actually, you know, had to, I don't know, like who's like made music videos for like bands before. I'd never really worked with somebody, especially underneath them, where I guess I was doing that grunt work too, where it was like, oh God, it was like, go find me a bunch of like farm cleaning supplies. And it's like, what do you mean? And it's like, oh, just giant brushes, giant shovels, and then you got to paint them blue and yellow, and we need it done by this day. And was like, okay, cool. And then we had to ship those across the country to San Diego for the performance. I had to basically look into the whole process of renting or purchasing shirts, debating, you know, how we go about like getting like a patch for a custom shirt. Like, do we get an iron on? Do we order the shirts with it already on there? There's just all these little things that I guess I never really thought about when I saw a big event or even a small event that I got to actually do and work on. And I really appreciated those experiences.
So similar to Thomas, I'm also from Seward, Nebraska. Yeah, in high school and middle school, I had no idea what kind of opportunities were out there. I just knew my mom was a nurse, my dad worked in the factory there in Seward, and I thought, okay, I'm interested in science, I'm interested in helping people, I'll go be a doctor. It wasn't until I got to Southeast and started really talking and hearing about different opportunities that were out there for graduates and students and everything like that. So I really didn't have my mind made up until about 2.5, 3 years into community college. And yeah, so you got time to make up your mind, but it would have been nice, you know, maybe to have a little head start on that in high school and middle school. But yeah.
Okay, so that transitions to our last question. And our audience is all teachers. So if you could give them a piece of advice for how they could inspire students to stick with STEM into a career, what would you say? A piece of advice.
I just think being supportive and hearing what they're interested in and then helping them to kind of make that happen. You know, a big part of my story was I had a Bio 2 student here, Tyler Corey, and I was going through kind of this, oh man, I really wanted to go down med school. I'm not feeling like these classes are right for me. I don't feel like I'm going down the right path, and that's where he told me about biotech. And he really pushed me to like go and meet with Tracy and get information about biotech. And he was just very supportive. He never shot me down. He said, oh, I don't think you're going to get paid enough, or I don't think this is the right path for you. It just I told him what I was interested in, and he tried to help me out any way he could to test that path out. And I'm thankful to him because it worked out for me.
I'm very cynical. I'm very much like when I was, especially in high school, especially in middle school, unless I found something myself or unless I happened upon it myself, I would be very dismissive. I would assume that something would be, kind of stupid. And I felt like that really up until I started taking UCare with Ash. And even then, because we did these kooky, weird, strange art projects, which I was like, what's the point? But I would see the point, or at least part of the point, when I would see people's reactions, because I guess there was in San Diego there was this husband and wife. He was in a bad mood. He did not want to do it, but the wife was like, just do it, just do it, just do it. And then he did it, and it was such a transformative experience, and he was just smiling, and he was so happy, and it was just so great all around. And I was like, wow, that's the impact. That's the important thing, or that's the thing that I'm latching on to. That's how I'm making it my own. Is I appreciate, and I'm really looking at the impact this is having on people, and making them feel things. So that was my thing, and especially looking back on it, was if I could see the impact, if I could really feel it, if that was kind of laid out in front of me, because keeping things abstract, that one, I kind of okay, what's the point? And some people really like that, but I'm very much just a different kind of student. So that would be my advice for any cynics out there.
For me, I would say show your students that this is a very realistic field to get into, because I feel like when I was looking at this as a career field, it felt very daunting and almost nebulous, where you don't really know where to start, where to get into anything. So show your students there's opportunities for jobs. There's the STEM is such a huge field that they can do practically anything they want to with it and still find a very realistic future in that path. So just show them it's pragmatic. It's fine. You can do this and you will be fine doing this.
I'm going to piggyback off of Hunter. I also took class with Tyler Corey, and he is one of the most caring and excited to teach people I've probably ever met in my life. And he cares so much about his students, and he cares so much about what they want to do, even if it's not science related. He said multiple times, if you're just taking this class to have a credit, then you're just taking this class to have a credit. That's how it is. He's not pushing you to do something you don't want to do, and he's interested. That's one of the biggest things for me, because I've had multiple professors where they're just there, just to go there, teach, leave, done. They don't care. And that's just terrible for a student's perspective, because I'm why am I listening to you? And why am I learning from you if you don't want to be here? It's kind of because young kids, they can tell that if you're just there, just reading off a PowerPoint, you're not actually connecting with people. And that's a big thing for me. So connect with them. And then always remember, sometimes STEM isn't for everybody, but if it is, just give them all the information that you have and let them decide, hey, maybe that interests me, maybe that doesn't interest me. But just give them the opportunity, and obviously show that you care, because it's respect. If you don't show respect, they're not going to respect you back. If you don't show interest, they're not going to show interest back to you. That's a big thing for me, I would say.
I'd say that it's just to let your students know that their path doesn't have to be linear, and that they don't necessarily need to know exactly what they're going to do. When I was in 8th grade, I made a decision that I was going to go into forensic anthropology, and I'm very headstrong, and I have not deviated from that path, even still to this day. That's my long-term plan. But I know a lot of people who don't have that long-term plan, and currently I'm not at that point. I took a little side quest into biotechnology, and it's been a great little side quest into biotech. I had a lot of fear in forensic anthropology since it's such a niche field that if things didn't work out, if I couldn't find a job, that I would just be kind of stranded out there with no hopes, no prospects. And so I guess along with that, it's not always a linear path. Knowing that things are interdisciplinary, science is so interdisciplinary. There's all of these little subfields, and they all connect to one another. And sometimes you just got to apply and see if the person you're applying to, the position you're applying for, if they see the value in your interdisciplinary knowledge. You don't need to know exactly what you're going to do. When I applied for this job here at SCC, it was kind of like a shot in the dark. I really didn't think I was going to hear a response back because on paper, my degree says I have a BA in anthropology. And I didn't know if anyone would see that and be like, yeah, this person's qualified to be a biologist. And thankfully, they did see that and saw that, they saw how I still had knowledge of biology and that it was just a different field of biology, but how it was still applicable. And it just gave me a different perspective on biology. And so I'm very grateful that they were willing to give me that chance. I think a lot more employers are willing to give that chance than it seems on paper when you're looking through Indeed. And it's just you need a degree in this specific thing. You don't need to know exactly what you're going to do. You can just figure it out as you go. And it doesn't have to be a straight shot. You can take breaks. You can learn new skills, learn about different disciplines, and then if you kind of change your mind about what path you want to go on, or if you take a break from your path and then you get back on it, now you've learned new skills and you can get back to taking a little side quest, taking a little detour into another discipline isn't a bad thing. It's always good to learn new skills.
Great. Well, and we're glad that you're here at this workshop so that hopefully you can have some more resources to share with students as they come to you with all of their many varied ideas of what they want to do, and you can keep offering them multiple options. So we're going to thank our panelists, and then we'll take a break for about 5 minutes and get restarted with the workshop.
So, as a biotechnology enthusiast or somewhat passionate, what have you discovered that you think something to do to change humanity, and what are your initiatives for public dissemination and sustainability?
Is this for everybody or?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone.
Okay. Anyone who would like to offer?
If you have discovered something which is relevant to improve humanity and still in your mind, but you are planning to disseminate it to the public, and what will be your initiatives for this? And at the same time, your sustainability measures.
I guess I can talk a little bit about the work that Hunter and I are doing. I can't go too much into specifics on every little part, but Hunter and I are currently doing research for the grant that is sponsoring this workshop with yeast. And we're going to look at some of that yeast. Actually, in just a couple of minutes, we're going to look at the, Tracy was talking about it before the break, we're going to look at the Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Hunter and I are working with another yeast as well, though, that is going to be, that is a part of some of the greater research with UNL. We don't have full control over how all of it will be disseminated out, but we've been working on optimizing our portion, and then we're kind of the upstream of growing the yeast and optimizing the growth of this yeast, and then we're handing it downstream to UNL, to their food science department, and they're going to work on then the next parts of this. And the goal is eventually to publish it, and I think it'll eventually be there are potentially future ways that this could be helpful, built into improving our food ecosystem, making various things more accessible to people. But right now we're still in the research stage, and I know that there is eventually at least going to be the research will eventually be published.
Anybody else have any ideas that they would like to share?
I guess. I mean, Jonah and I. Is that what you were gonna? I mean, we work at Solarion. For those of you who don't know, it's a clinical research facility. So it's like phase 1 clinical trials where we have, we have participants come in. They take the drug that we are currently testing for whatever reason, and then we're just a very small cog in a big machine to get this drug released for whatever sponsor is trying to get the drug released. I mean, I don't really know many specifics, but just stuff like that. I mean, we don't really have control of where that goes after we get done processing whatever batch we're processing at the time. But I'd like to say that we're doing something good for humanity. At least I think so. Just because there's so many drugs out there that can really help people. And without them, I mean, obviously they're still hurting. So yeah, I don't know. Did you want to expand on that? Yeah, go ahead. I'm bad at this.
Yeah, building off of what Thomas said, like Solarion, it's multi-phase clinical testing, so we'll handle multiple phases of like a drug development process for a lot of different companies. And we handle like everything from like schizophrenia medication to heart medication, even to like Flonase or whatever, like nasal medication. And we're just testing it in like different matrices and just see how it affects in the body. But like Thomas said, we don't, like Solarion doesn't handle anything outside of what they tell us to do. So usually the sponsor will then disseminate that either in a new product or a paper that studied on the effects of this drug in a different matrix than what it was originally planned on. But yeah, just building off of what Thomas said.
But you will be recognized if ever somebody will have published that, are you being recognized? Or?
No, we wouldn't get recognized. Usually the people that get, like if a paper was to be published, since we're, like Thomas said, we're pretty small cogs in the machine, we have like principal investigators or people that work with the sponsor directly. They'll usually get the credit on that because they handle a lot of the data analysis while we're just like actually processing through samples and getting them that data.
So I think one of the themes that you guys are talking about is that science is very collaborative, and each person is making a contribution. And if we're all aligned on a similar mission, whether that's drug development for humans or animals, then we can contribute to an impact in the world, even if your name isn't recognized anywhere. Yeah. Anybody else have anything to add?
Hunter and I often say, like, we're just here for the love of the game. We're just happy to be doing science and, like, contributing to research. We say that often, to be honest. We're just happy to be here, be included, and to get to contribute to this larger picture, like the broader picture of how this research can impact the world. I mean, I hope that there's some recognition of us if in the future publishing, but I'm just happy that we got to do it and that we got to be here.
So I've gotten to work under 2 different grants here at Southeast, and part of those grants are going out and educating what I would like to consider the next generation of scientists. So I hope that a lot of the work we're doing, not only in the lab, but when we take it out and help educate different teachers, or we come out into the classroom and help to talk to different students, that might spark their light bulb. And you never know who might be the next Einstein or anything like that, right? So that's kind of where my heart's at when working on these different grants with Southeast, is how can we take this information, help educate the different teachers, help educate the different students, and make an impact that way as well.
Yeah, because you guys are all great multipliers. You see far more students than we will ever see come through maybe our doors here at SEC. And so when you are able to share with your students some of the things that you've picked up along the way, then that just helps keep adding to the knowledge and hopefully to their positive experiences as well. Any other questions? Okay, well, we'll take a break for about 5 minutes and then we will get started back in the lab.